KUGR.
Good morning, Cougs. You are listening to Slice of Seattle on KUGR. It's a sports talk radio show where I'm giving you updates, hot takes, and hopefully talk to some important people. It is a rainy day on the Palouse today. Halloween was last Thursday. We're getting closer and closer to Thanksgiving. I am joined in booth today with Connor Simmons and the other Connor Seuferling. How are you doing today, boys?
Doing great.
Having fun.
Absolutely, yeah. So let's jump into it. Let's talk about Cougar football. They played last week against SDSU. Really, really close game.
Hey, we're ranked.
Exactly.
Number 22.
Mm-hmm.
We did what we wanted to accomplish. But like we said, we've talked about this probably multiple times on the show now. What's killing us is the close games with the non-really relevant teams, which is we're winning. Thank God for that, we're winning.
Absolutely.
But it's not like dominant wins where it's like they look at us like powerhouses and stuff like that.
No.
So that's how I'm kind of viewing it, but
Yeah, we're coming up clutch when it matters most, and I think especially the defense has been what's going off, Alukta had that really big interception in the game, and he's had multiple on the season. And we're at 15 takeaways this year, which is already blowing out what we had last year in terms of takeaways. So that's been great, but no, the close games, we can't have that. And I mean, we're not necessarily really in playoff contention anymore at this late in the season.
No.
I would love to think we are, but we're not. So it's not the biggest problem in the world. But having these games against San Diego State, San Jose State, Fresno State, and a couple of these other games, we can't be doing it against mid-tier Mountain West schools. So, yeah.
Not totally. And we were just talking about a little before we went on air that we're pretty confident. I mean, John Mateer is probably not going to stay with us next year. Because how decent they're playing, not well enough to make the playoffs, but how well, we're kind of in that zone where why would he stay with us?
Well, when you look at WSU with almost, I can say confidently, every sport we kind of play in, we're a bridge D1 school. So what happens is you have the 4U guys that are awesome, very mid, kind of go on into the NFL draft, top 4 pick, or top 4 rounds of a pick or something like that. Those guys are outliers and stuff like that. But when you have someone young, like John Mateer, who I believe is only a sophomore, and he's dominating, was top 10 in the Heisman race at some point, still leading a lot of stats and stuff like that, just got to pick up the turnover problem.
Yeah.
A bigger school is looking for that.
Totally.
They're going to give him the money. It's a better school, probably in general, just the football history and program itself. Mm-hmm. And so it's why wouldn't you? And we are a bridge program. It happens with basketball, football, where it's the better guys that are still going to be playing college in the next 2 years, they leave for a better opportunity, which you're obviously happy for them. But Cam Ward, Miles Rice, John, I wouldn't be surprised if John Mateer goes and all that stuff. But it's we give them that first, we're that D1 school that believes in you, gives them the stage almost. We give them the stage, give them all the TV, gives them the film to go back and watch and all that stuff, and then the big program works on that from there. And then look at Cam Ward looking to win a Heisman, so on and so on. But
yeah, I mean, Dickard's been a great coach. I love the culture he's instilled, and I'm hoping that plus, I don't know, maybe just a little bit of that country culture, can get him to stay. But I totally agree with you. I think there's so many coaches out there that are well more known for being, quote unquote quarterback whispers. You've got bigger programs like in the SEC, or I really think a more of a mid tier ACC or Big Ten school, maybe an IU who's been really good this year or something like that. Maybe even a team like Pitt or something like that could pick him up. We hope he stays, but the development for him, I think, is what's going to matter most.
Oh, totally.
And it just makes it hard to rebuild as a school program. WSU football is always going to have this, since we're the bridge school, have this constant reformation of we're not really building anything. It's just a next man up, next man up. Okay, freshman's got to start. Hopefully that freshman does good. Boom, and then he's so on. But
no, totally.
It is what it is.
I mean, so we have a bye week this week. Cougs are not playing. I can't remember who we're playing again next week.
Utah State.
Yes.
Utah State. All right. So I mean, it could be a pretty close game again. I mean, we just got to keep winning. We just got to win out. I mean,
outside of Oregon State, it should be 20-point wins.
Yeah.
Oregon State, I'll give you a little pass. We should still win.
Totally.
Don't get me wrong, but that will be if it's a close game, I won't be too upset. But everything else, no.
Well, knowing us, we're going to keep that a close game. I mean, even Oregon State, they got blown out by a mid-tier Cal school a couple of weeks ago. And so, I don't know. I mean, Utah State should be close as well. They're also a bottom 3 Mountain West school.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So, I don't know what we're doing. But, hey, we at least win those football games, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah, so that's all we're gonna talk about for the Cougs right now. Let's move in. Let's talk about baseball. We'll talk about the World Series, but I want to start with a little bit of Mariners news. The Mariners they did not extend an offer to Jorge Polanco.
Yeah.
He's essentially a free agent. Same thing with Luis Urias. He just cleared waivers, and he is also a free agent. So that's two middle infielders that we're letting walk out the door. I mean, with the less with the Urias situation, but more with the Polanco situation, I'm getting flashbacks to Teoscar. I mean,
it's kind of weird how he goes off and wins the World Series.
Yeah.
And then you do the exact same to another promising player, which doesn't make sense to me at all.
Yeah, wait till Polanco goes to a contender and they just win the World Series just because he joined them, right?
That's what I'm scared of, man. I'm getting PTSD, man. I can see it. I mean, it's just, yeah. Teoscar, that whole situation, I wouldn't say he was talking smack about the Mariners. He was more just, I was talking to a bunch of people and they're like, did you hear Teoscar was talking smack about the Mariners? I'm like, he's not talking smack about us, guys. He's pointing out like genuine criticism. It's like our clubhouse environment isn't great. We're not doing what needs to be done to win. And I definitely think specifically with the Polanco situation, with being a second baseman, we haven't had a good second baseman for a while. I mean, I think back to Robinson Cano, like that whole situation. You're trying to fill that spot, but for the past couple years, second base, less with shortstop because we got J.P. Crawford, but second base has been a revolving door of just second base and third base for us have been like, who is just playing hot enough that they can put in there and just like play. They play decent defense and they just hit the ball decently. We just don't have hitters, and so I mean, like, it's just frustrating.
Yeah, the middle infield, like on that right side, it's been a revolving door. Even at first base a little bit too. I mean, like and we had D Gordon, we had Polanco, we had a couple other guys rotating in. Even Cano, I mean, he was great at his peak, but still, he had the whole PED situation, whatever.
Exactly.
And so it's been rough, yeah. And from the perspective of payroll, I hope it isn't a payroll issue that we're just letting these guys go. We better replace them, right? Because it feels like what Dipoto's been focused on, even though he doesn't want to admit that. Yeah. And it's kind of making me a little tired of Dipoto at this point. So
yeah, a lot of people are tired of Dipoto.
And he truly doesn't make sense.
No.
Like, you don't see, like, there's a lot of GMs you could see, like, oh, I mean, there's potential in this move. I don't like it, but, like, there's something out of it. The moves he does truly doesn't, like, I don't see a lot of, like, what were you thinking kind of things.
I mean, yeah, you're totally right. The way I always look at it is like this. At the end of the day, the Mariners are a product. We are a product that is owned by people. And for them, if the product is playing like a mediocre, not that good, decent, it's still making money for you. And so if it's still making money for you, why would you, like put yourself out there, make a risk, spend money on something that could backfire on you? So I think that's been the mindset for the Mariners ownership for years. We are a mid-level team who is still being profitable. We're still bringing in fans and we're making money for that organization. But if you extend yourself a little too much, you go get some free agents, you go get some players, pay them what they're worth. Then maybe what they don't pan out. What if you end up not winning? Maybe you anger some people. You start losing money. So for the ownership of the Mariners, they've been treating this team not like a team. They've been treating it like a product.
Yeah.
And I think we need ownership who is going to look at it like a team and not like a product. Because when you look at teams who their ownership treats it like a team, they go on and they win championships. And I mean, obviously, like the Dodgers this year, like that's just like you have all the money in the world, so you're able to do both. You're able to treat it like a product and like a team.
Yeah.
But if you like for us, like I'm not saying that we're poor, but like we don't have the largest payroll. But so we got to find that middle ground of like being able to treat it like a team and get guys on the team who are gonna produce and stop being cheap, stop making weird decisions like Jerry Dipoto is. I mean, we gotta get rid of Jerry Dipoto, get some new ownership in. I'll say that for forever, but that's the main problem with the Mariners. So,
and it's funny because we have gone cheap in the past and kind of worked, right? Like we built up one of our best farm systems, one of the best farm systems in baseball over the past 5 years or so after it being a dumpster fire for a decade. Exactly. And of course, we get a couple guys up. We got like J-Rod's been a great addition to the team, but we don't do anything with it, right? After we get these guys up in where we want them to be, it's just we don't add any free agents to help it out. We don't get the right coaching in, and so we build cheaply, and then the products just sit there. And so I don't know what we're doing, man.
Well, you're 100% right. Like, when we finally get the teams, like, usually, like, what the GMs and all of them are thinking when it's coming to coaching the Mariners or whatever, they're like, let's run it back. But it's like, you can't run it back if you didn't make the playoffs.
Exactly.
You're a first-round exit, whatever it was. I don't know why you want to run it back because something has to change. Yeah. They have the lineup, but you have to build off the lineup. Totally. They want to keep the lineup, which is it's not going to happen. It's not going to give you results at all. You're going to keep getting the same result, or at one point that result's going to fall off.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So.
No, totally.
I like to think about it like as in the NFL, a quarterback draft or a team drafting a franchise quarterback, right? You got them on their rookie contract. Mm-hmm. You maximize that rookie contract while he's cheap, right? Yeah. Why have we not done that with Julio Rodriguez, right? Like we've had him on rookie deal, type stuff before arbitration and all of that. And it's like, why aren't we building around him while we have the chance? It's same thing as the NFL. So
exactly.
Hey, go out and get Juan Soto. Make all of us happy.
Honestly, dude.
I wish.
Everybody happy.
I'd love to see it. No, let's talk about the World Series. I know everyone's wanting to hear about that. Mm-hmm. We've been talking about it throughout the week, and what we've kind of concluded is that it was a really hyped up World Series for obvious reason. You have the two strongest,
best teams in baseball.
Exactly, best teams in baseball, highest payrolls, biggest stars on those teams.
Yeah.
And
two big franchises itself.
Yeah. And to be honest, I was slightly underwhelmed. Just only goes to 5 games. Dodgers kind of just stomped on the Yankees the whole time. Yeah, there was one good game for the Yankees in Game 4, and that was it. And then they kind of just.
Well, the reason why I was underwhelmed was because we all talked about, there wasn't enough games, which that was the letdown by the Yankees and stuff like that. But first 3 games, Dodgers completely got them. We're rolling. Yankees got a Game 4.
Yeah.
Which is oh, hey, good job. Game 5, we were all hanging out. They're up 4-0. We saw the Judge home run, the Jazz Chisholm home run. So we're like, okay, Yankees are making a series.
Yep.
Looking like it's going to go to 6. And then that was probably the best game of the series, I guess you could say, was that Game 5 when the Dodgers won, turned it around, all this whole stuff. But this easily could have been a swept series if it wasn't for the bottom 3 of Verdugo, Wells, and Gleyber Torres, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. The Yankees got bailed out by, I won't even say bailed out because those guys are really good baseball players.
Totally.
But their bottom 3 saved them. It wasn't the Stanton, it wasn't Jazz, it wasn't Judge, but it like you said, underwhelming in that aspect.
100%. So. Yeah. No, I mean, I would say for the Yankees, Aaron Judge he wasn't clutch at all in the playoffs, which is so frustrating because here's how I look at it. What the main reason why the Dodgers were able to win, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it's because the Dodgers were a better team than the Yankees. They were just, I don't know what it was. They just clutched up there in the World Series. Their mentality was right. Their heads were in the right space. Yeah. Freddie Freeman was a dog. I mean, just home run after home run in clutch situations. A walk-off grand slam in the World Series. That's what made it really entertaining, was seeing stuff like that. But I mean, you're telling me Aaron Judge, he's setting records in the regular season for home runs, and then he gets to the playoffs and he forgets to hit the ball. He's striking out. What's going on?
And it's weird because I don't want to say Shohei Ohtani did have a better playoff run than him.
No.
It was just one of those things where Shohei and him both kind of didn't fall off the map. They're still there. You're still respecting them. Don't get me wrong, but it was when Judge and here's the thing: that Game 5 hit a home run. Okay. Yeah. Yankees turn around, Judge turn around, something happens, and it's the simple mistakes he dropped the ball.
Dude.
The error. Here's the thing. The Yankees probably should have won that game.
Yeah.
Errors killed them more than anything.
100%.
It wasn't that the Dodgers was hitting the ball amazingly, anything like that. They were just getting on base. The Yankees shot themselves in the foot. And
100%.
that Game 5 was just, no, can't happen. Can't happen, especially in a go-home game. No. Can't be happening.
Yeah, you made a good point about Ohtani and Judge. I feel like all season they've been linked together. Obviously, they're not, one's American, one's national, but those two have been at the top of the league whole season, right, in their respective MVP conversations.
100%.
But when we came to the playoffs and when we came to especially the World Series, the script got flipped, right?
Yeah.
And I love seeing that. It was great to see some new faces or some familiar faces who have been buried by the star power on their teams, right? So it was great to see Freddie Freeman come out, and I mean I love Freeman, right? What he did for the Atlanta Braves in that last series that he was in, amazing. He hit very well this series, 300 or so, and it was just great to see him pop off as well as some other Dodgers, and then for the Yankees having a couple guys down at the bottom of the order doing their thing. And so I do think that really helped. And this series had really good ratings despite it only being a 5-game series. And I think it's because of those standouts that we didn't expect.
100%. No, it definitely felt like in the regular season, Judge, I wouldn't quite say he carried the team, but he was a standout. He was
MVP.
The main
of
guy.
that team for the regular season, right? Same thing with Shohei Ohtani, Mr. 50-50 for the Dodgers during the regular season. He's in a recovery year for Shohei. That's the thing.
Not even pitching.
Exactly, yeah. As a two-way player, doing one side of what he does, and he's setting records for it. Both of those guys, I think, kind of carried their teams a little bit in the regular season, and then they get to the postseason. That's where baseball's a marathon, 162 games, and then the postseason. You're tired, you got injuries, you're not 100% going all the way through. I mean, so I could see where they kind of, I wouldn't say fell off, but just weren't putting up the same numbers that they were doing in the regular season. Yeah. But like you were saying, Connor, I mean, Freddie Freeman, like some of these guys who I wouldn't say had the most amazing regular season, they came through clutch in the postseason. And like you said, like you love Freddie Freeman. I love Freddie Freeman. I mean, he's such a good personality.
Yeah.
I mean, it's when he was with the Braves, I loved him with the Braves. You could tell he loved playing there. That was his city. That was his town. Do I hate seeing him in a Dodgers uniform? 100%.
Of course.
I'm a certified Dodgers hater just because I hate big teams with big payrolls who get all the guys on their teams.
And it works.
Yeah, and it works.
The Yankees are the same way, but like it's a little bit different. The Dodgers is just it's ridiculous.
100%.
Right?
And going back to Freddie Freeman, when they were like obviously every World Series game you have the little like mini documentaries or whatever, and it was a Freddie Freeman kind of thing, and he almost lost both of his parents by the age of 12.
Yeah,
which was a crazy thing to hear about. And he's like sitting there crying, talking in the interview, where it's like his mom, I want to say died from illness. I don't want to like misjudge that or get that wrong or anything that, but died from like
something along those lines.
Something like non-natural. And his dad wasn't a healthy eater at all. Did a lot of like bad things, like was a bigger man, and basically had like a heart attack.
Yeah.
And Freddie at the age of 12 had to take him to the hospital and almost lost both his parents. And then ever since then, like as he's like got the surgery, he's like, and like the doctor told his dad, he was like, if you didn't come in tonight, you probably would have died in your sleep.
Yeah.
And that is just crazy to me.
No,
like that we probably don't have Freddie Freeman because of that moment.
100%.
Because if you like, it keeps going later down the line. His dad every basketball almost said baseball practice. Yeah. Right after that would extra 2 more hours of Freddie Freeman getting bad in practice. He would go right behind the net and just throw him, and that I guaranteed helps and strengthen their obviously like communication and relationship and everything like that. But that is just crazy to me. Like it's like the butterfly effect of like. If he goes to sleep that night, passes away, Freddie Freeman, one of the greatest baseball players you can say of all time, is just non-existent, and that's just insane to me. Yeah, insane.
No, totally. I remember listening to that interview, which you're talking about, the documentary and everything, and it's powerful. I mean,
they're both crying.
Both crying, yeah. And then he goes on to do what he did in the World Series. I mean, I feel so great, I feel good for him that he was able to get an accomplishment like that and be the guy who wins the MVP for the season. I mean, just. What a guy. I love Freddie Freeman. It's just, I love that.
Especially with his son and everything, too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we can't forget about that. I mean, that's a crazy story. So, his ability to build himself up and his character and everything's great.
100%. Yeah. And then the other thing I want to touch on, too, with the World Series is the Yankees fan prying the ball out of Mookie Betts' glove.
That was bad.
It was bad. I mean, look, as a baseball fan, if you are at a game and you are on the wall and the ball is caught by a player, takes him into the stands, what have you, you can touch the guy, you can help him, push him back on the field, whatever. Do not, and I repeat in all caps, do not take the ball out of his glove. It's bad sports etiquette. It's bad baseball etiquette. Like, just don't do it.
Well, it pissed me off. I'm not a baseball guy, but obviously I watch, like, baseball, this stuff, never played it, anything like that.
Keeping up with it.
Keeping up with it. Like, I know the big guys, all this stuff, and obviously I watch the World Series. Who doesn't, But when you see that, it pissed me off to the point because it's like, Mookie Betts, superstar player, correct? And could you imagine, okay, like the play, nothing really happened because of that. They gave that anything. But let's just say Mookie Betts hurts his wrist or his hand or his arm or something because the guy is holding his arm and the other friend is prying the glove open, getting the ball back in. Like, what did they think was going to happen, first of all? But could you imagine Mookie got injured and had to miss even just one game? Oh, my God. There would have been riots. There would have been Mookie Betts isn't playing, who's a top 3 player in baseball, maybe. Never mind World Series. Oh, like I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine if he would have got injured. That might have been the end of the world.
100%.
Like,
And it's just happened one too many times to me. Like, I just don't understand. And this is not the first time we've seen it, but now it's escalated to the biggest stage.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, I just don't understand what fans are thinking. I mean, obviously not everybody that sits up that close necessarily is a big baseball fan, right? Some people just
They
buy
have the money.
expensive tickets,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because it's a, and it's also just a iconic sporting event to be at.
Totally.
But I don't know. I mean, honestly, I think this is on either the MLB or the teams to be saying more about it before fans get in the stadium and stuff. I know that's not really my judgment call, but it's just happened one too many times, and it can't happen on the biggest stage, and especially with Mookie Betts. I mean, gosh, that back outfield right there on both sides is full of talent, and so to be in harm's way for either space is just out of question to me. Yeah.
100%.
and like you said, it happens a lot with the fans and stuff, and obviously this biggest stage. But this was one of the worser kind of events I've seen. Like his hand is fully, or his arm is fully stretched out, has it. One dude is holding his arm, his wrist, whatever, above his glove kind of area.
The other guy
and
pries
the other
it
guy's
open.
prying the glove open.
It's a whole operation. Like, they have this thing planned out. Like, they
Yeah.
know what's up. They're like, they know what they're doing, but that's not good. That's scary good,
It's
right? Like,
insane.
Yeah.
I truly don't get it. And then later on the line, Rob Gronkowski's on a podcast
Yeah.
saying, "Oh yeah, I played hockey with that guy in Arizona. We were friends or whatever." Well, that's just a small world kind of thing. But
Totally.
like even Connor just said, I truly just don't get it. And it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
And you and I were talking about this earlier this week too about it. Even though it was in New York and he was a New York fan who did it, doesn't matter if you if Mookie had gotten injured or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
you could get jumped. I mean, on the biggest stage, you have Dodgers fans. You injured one of your star players, something like that. You're putting yourself in danger because everyone sees you. They know who you are. It's on camera. So I mean, that's the other reason why I would say don't do it, because there are countless times where there are people who catch a home run or catch a ball that would have been caught. It becomes a home run or something like that, and they get attacked and they get bombarded by hate and everything like that. So just don't do it. And I know that in New York, he's actually I think he's become kind of a folk hero now, where it's he's the guy who tried to pry the ball out of Mookie Betts' glove and I'm like, that's not. We shouldn't be celebrating this, guys. It's not
something to bring up. On
it's
the
not
stage.
commendable. Yeah.
exactly. That's why that frustrated me so much about it. But no. Dodgers are the World Series champions of 2024. I mean, we were saying it's a little underwhelming. We hoped it would have gone to at least 6, hopefully 7 games. Didn't quite get that far. But congratulations to the Dodgers. Congratulations to Freddie Freeman getting an MVP.
Yeah.
I mean, just a really fun Dodgers team to watch, despite how much I hate them and how much I despise them. I mean, and the
Fair.
Yankees too a little bit.
Yep.
But yeah, no. Let's shift. Let's talk about the Seahawks. We didn't get coverage for the Atlanta game. It was our last show we did was the day before that.
Yeah.
Beautiful game against Atlanta.
Yeah.
Defensive masterclass. We were pressuring Kirk Cousins. He couldn't get anything off. Great win against a good team. The Falcons have been really good this year. Kirk Cousins, Derek London have been a great pair. I mean, it's just to have that win against them has been great.
Well, and like you just said, getting pressure on them and everything like that. There's a stat, I think it was the last time the Falcons were on prime time. Kirk Cousins, 2% of the time, rolls out of the pocket.
Yeah.
So 98% of the time, he's launching it in the pocket. So that means his gut offensive line's protecting him. And also, he's coming off a torn ACL. Probably going to win comeback player of the year, him or J.K. Dobbins. It's whatever up in the air.
Yeah.
But he stays in the pocket a lot. So if you make him flustered, he can't get the ball to Bijan for a quick gun, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, all that stuff. So like you said, the pressuring was immaculate and amazing on that side of the ball. And then that obviously sparks something else offensively, defense is doing good, we got to do good, and the game just flows like that.
Yeah.
It was great to see finally another good Mike McDonald defensive game, right? We had the first 3 weeks were great, obviously against average teams or worse, but still, he was showing promise. Then a 3-game losing streak also looks bad. But this game was great. I thought the defensive pressure, especially on the D-line, was great. Kirk Cousins is a play-action guy by heart. Doesn't matter where he's played. Washington, Minnesota, whatever. And so just not biting on the run too hard because our run defense has been hit or miss this year, right?
Exactly.
So not biting on the run, taking care of Bijan, just being, they didn't fully take care of Bijan, but slowed him down enough to not let him score when it mattered most. Yeah. And the pass defense was great too, and I think we just looked nice and sound, and that allowed the offense to actually be on the field, control the time of possession, And we rattled a really good Falcons team that's 5-3 right now and in position to win their division. So
Totally.
yeah, great game.
I mean, Kirk Cousins too. He was like earlier in the season, he was talking smack about the fact that he was going for these away games. He was going into their house and he was beating them and everything like that. And he was talking about that in press conferences.
Kirk O'Chain's talk.
Yeah, Kirk O'Chain's exactly. Yeah, and so it was. So then for us to go play them in Atlanta and we beat them like that, that's a momentum building game. That is just like it's you're shoving a win down their throat, right? And you're just like we come into your house and we beat you in your barn. That's momentum building. And so that's why going into that Bills game, I was thinking this is going to be a close game. This is going to be good against a good Bills team. We have the momentum to do something against them, and then we ended up putting together the single most embarrassing, worst NFL game I have seen in my entire life. We won. It wasn't that the Bills beat us. The Bills played okay football. We beat ourselves. We shot ourselves in the foot over and over again. We're fighting ourselves on the sidelines, the defensive tackles.
Yeah.
That's where I'm looking at. Like, that's clearly there are problems in the locker room. There are problems outside the field that we are not addressing. And the culture right now, something's happening where there's beef within our team, and that you can't win games if you're fighting each other.
And I understand. Like, when you see teams fighting on the sideline, I obviously know teams fight. Like, competitive sides come out and stuff like that. When it starts getting like on the sideline and hands are getting thrown and stuff like that, that's when you kind of know like, oh, okay, this team's killing themselves.
Yeah.
There's a virus in the locker room, whatever. Not saying it's a person or whatever, but there's something out in the locker room. And we've said this probably the last 4 weeks we've done this show, is that the Seahawks need to find themselves. It's almost embarrassing at this point where it's like, okay, we start out 3-0 versus some pretty below average teams. Like, oh, you can go back to the Dolphins. They didn't have Tua. Like, we've talked about it. You go back to the other episodes. But they haven't found themselves. Yeah, in my opinion, I would say as of right now, the Falcons are probably right there with the Bills. Switch out Josh Allen, but like they have better weapons. They have a better, overall built team. So the Falcons I wouldn't be mad if you said they were better than the Bills and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But for us to smoke the Falcons and then get smoked by the Bills doesn't make sense to me at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense for us to lose to the Giants, but and go to overtime with the Patriots. It's like we're playing up and down the competition where it's like we just need to find ourselves, and it doesn't make sense. Maybe it's like first-year coaching thing, just trying to get the system going. Maybe it's Geno. I truly couldn't tell you the problem.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what's going on in locker rooms, all that stuff. We don't know the plays, and obviously every NFL team's dealing with injuries. Mm-hmm. But I just truly, you can't get a read on the Seahawks. You can't get a read. You can, like, if you said they made the playoffs, oh, okay. They missed the playoffs, oh, okay. Like, you truly don't know with the Seahawks right now.
We went from a statement win to demoralizing loss.
Exactly.
I don't really think it's Mike Macdonald, but I am curious what it's like in that locker room right now, because this is a really young team, and it's his first season as a head coach, and he's working with a lot of different factors here. And I think the biggest thing is just the inconsistencies on both sides of the ball from week to week, and I mean also partially a new coaching staff. But it's like, 1 week our offense clicks and it's going strong. And then the next week the defense clicks. But in any given game, it's only one or the other, right? Yeah. And then obviously the Bills game is neither, right?
Exactly.
But it's like you said, it's finding an identity, and I'm a little skeptical they'll find an identity this season.
Yeah.
I think this is definitely going to be a year in which there's a lot of like trial and error, which is fine, right? We can use there can be transition years, right? But for Mike Macdonald, I mean, a guy who's expected to come in with this, very strong defensive identity, I think still has a lot of work to go. And I think there's going to be, as we get later in the season and in the offseason, there's going to be a lot of questions for this coach and this team.
Well, and like you said, like Mike Macdonald, he's only a first-year coach, so he's going to know everything, and he has to find his personal own identity of coaching and stuff like that. So this hopefully isn't like we're just dogging on them kind of session, but like you just said, this is a build on it year. Like, this isn't no one can come here and tell me right now that Seahawks are Super Bowl contenders. But you can sit here and tell me that if they build from this, they can be.
Right.
No doubt about it in my mind. They are like probably 2 steps away.
100%.
It's like that playoff and the dominant playoff, and they 100% can build off this.
That's a good way to put it.
And this is only 1 year with a first-year coach his first year with probably Gino and all these young guys and stuff. But we don't have a lot of how can I say, like, we don't have a lot of trying to think, like, not chemistry, but like the young guys, they don't have a lot of experience. The experience is what I was trying to say.
They're not gelling together.
And then like even like Gino, who's a veteran, supposed to be the leader guy, he doesn't have a lot of
leadership.
Like he doesn't have that like kind of like he's not there. He hasn't been on the big stage.
No.
He hasn't proved like because if you're looking at Gino, like it's one thing if you have like a guy that fell off, kind of like a little bit like Aaron Rodgers. Not saying he's fallen off completely. Don't want people coming at me in the comments.
Yeah.
But he's won the Super Bowl. He's won MVPs. He knows what it takes to be one of the best in the league.
Yeah.
With Gino, he's a veteran who's kind of just gone by. Where it's like you look at Gino like, oh, I respect you, but you don't even know what it takes to win, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
he's a journeyman, not a veteran playoff quarterback.
Yeah.
Exactly. And here's the thing. I mean, like with Mike Macdonald, I'm going to talk about Mike Macdonald and Geno Smith here. With the guys fighting on the sideline, and we mentioned that there's obviously a problem with chemistry. There's a problem outside of the field, right? As Mike Macdonald as the head coach, and as a defensive that's a defensive head coach, like that's what he focuses on. And it's your D-line guys who are fighting. You gotta nip it in the butt. You gotta create a culture that doesn't happen. So clearly he's dropping the ball in some way in that form, right? He's still a good coach. I still like Mike Macdonald. I think he's got, like what you're saying, he has a lot of potential. His first year as a head coach.
And he's not even doing bad.
He's not doing bad, no. And it's like he's going to keep building off it. There are very few head coaches who, like, in their first year in the job, like, oh, yeah, we're making the playoffs. We're going to go to the Super Bowl. This is the peak of what you're going to see from me. No. It's going to take a few years for him to get used to this team, build a culture. And because that's the thing. I think it's just that he hasn't had enough time yet with the Seahawks to build a culture where stuff like that doesn't happen. And with Geno, look, 2 bad snaps. Right, there's one that went over his head, and then there's one where the offensive line stepped on his foot and everything, and trips and everything. With like you were 2 yards out, that could have completely turned the game around. Right, that's 2 touchdowns you could have gotten that got us back in that game, and you go on the sideline and you're crying, like you're throwing a fit, and that is not the sign. Like what you're saying, it's not the sign of a veteran QB who's gonna carry the team who's gonna lead that team. That's not leadership quality. That's that's you crumble under the smallest amount of pressure. And that's just like where I'm looking at. So that's why I'm looking at the leaders of our team. That's why I'm looking at Mike Macdonald and Geno Smith. Because I know it was the defensive line guys who are fighting, and that's not Geno's territory, but it's your team, dude. You are the QB. I don't care what you are the leader of that team. You got to get your line. You got to get your boys in check. You got to make sure that they're not fighting with each other. They're all firing on all cylinders. And if you're not doing that and you're throwing fits on the sideline because you messed up 2 back-to-back plays, that's just not mental toughness. I don't know what it is.
I'm going to defend Geno a little bit here. I mean, I totally agree with you from the perspective of he can't be showing that kind of emotion on the sideline. I mean,
Totally.
I like to, it's not the same, but I like to compare it a little bit to the recent Anthony Richardson thing where it's just like, you can't be having that kind of comment or that. You want to speak to that real quick?
Don't get me started on Anthony
Texans fan, you can speak to that all day, every day, right?
Well,
now, do your little spiel. Yeah, tell me. What do you think?
Here, I'm a Texans fan. I haven't against it, so it helped us more than anything. But I'm just talking from a fan point of view, like almost from a Colts perspective, because I've talked to or argued with Colts fans a lot and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson, oh my, like it pissed me off as a Texans fan, and it helped us. Don't get me wrong, but to be given the name of the greatest, most athletic quarterback of all time from one of the greatest combine performances ever from a quarterback, one of the fastest, strongest, has the build, has the everything.
Right.
And you've kind of struggled getting like momentum of becoming a good football player than from a good athlete. And that's what he's kind of struggled with recently. He's obviously not playing. But for him to say, I'm tired, pull me out, is insane to me. They're losing the game. A big play almost happened. It just happened. It was a great tackle by the linebacker on the Texans. But to say, I'm tired sends a crazy message to the team. If I'm the coach, I'm livid.
Yeah.
If you have your young super talent, supposed to be face of the franchise, with number 4 overall pick in the draft, you have other guys like Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud taken ahead of him and stuff like that, who guys are... Bryce Young isn't doing too good, but like C.J. Stroud's proven at least to be a Pro Bowl top 10 quarterback in the league, and you have the most athletic guy in the league. All you have to do is just teach him the basics of football, get him just the dynamics down, how to throw, like be accurate. That's all you have to do is get better at. And says I'm tired. Oh, instantly, I don't blame Colts head coach at all for benching him. They have a better chance with Joe Flacco. It pissed me off to say I'm tired. Sends a whole message to the Colts team that I'm giving up.
Yeah.
And the Colts team is they can be a good team. They can be a playoff team. I'm pretty sure they still have a 57%. They're 4-4, 57% chance to make the playoffs. And I think Joe Flacco is going to help that better than them. And all the Colts fans like, oh, we have to build off Anthony Richardson. No, that pisses me off that he says, I'm tired. He said, I'm giving up. I don't want to, get me out. All this stuff. It sends such a horrible message, especially for the most athletic quarterback in the league. It doesn't make sense. I'm so sorry. Go.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a perfect jumping off point. I'll bring it back to Gino from that perspective, but I totally agree with you.
No.
Just with that emotion thing. But two really quick things about Gino that I think is a little bit defending wise, right? One, offensive line. Two, looking at his own future.
Yeah.
Offensive line has been atrocious this year, mainly due to injuries, right? We don't have Abraham Lucas. Charles Cross, I don't know how often he's been in the lineup, but in and out, whatever.
Totally.
Not having that, the center snapping the ball issues, I think there's just a big disconnect between those two.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to put that blame on Gino. Obviously, I'm still a little skeptical of the number of passes we're making him throw in the offense and the air yards per pass and stuff like that. It's concerning. But aside from that, also, I think Gino, when he's crying on that sideline, I think he's really thinking about, I don't have a lot of time left, right? Early 30s, mid 30s guy, journeyman, hasn't had any playoff success in his career. It's like he knows that the Seahawks are going to give him the best chance he has to actually revive anything in his career and actually have it be a meaningful quarterback. When I look back at Gino's career after he's done, I'll say, you were a good quarterback. I'm not going to hate on you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But a lot of people will forget about him, and I think he actually really cares about that. And so I think from his perspective, a lot of his reputation's on the line, and I think he gets a little frustrated because this team's really young, and the receiving core it's beat up, and DK and Gino aren't always on the same page. There's a lot of frustration around that. And so I think that's why he's the way he is right now. And of course he needs to fix that up a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. And what I'll say here, and you're right. I think football is an emotional sport. There are a lot of emotions that are going on.
For sure.
And when stuff like that happens, you feel it. You're angry. You're angry at yourself. You're angry at your center, your teammates who may not be backing you up at all or anything like that.
Right.
I understand that. That's 100%. Like you'll get emotional like that. The problem though is that, and when I realized it as I was watching the game, was when you show cracks like that, when your teammates start fighting each other, when you see Gino, you can see he's getting emotional like that. I realized immediately the Bills were going to take advantage. And if you're watching the game, you'd hear they go off to the sideline, the mics pick up what they're talking about. The Bills were in our face, in our ears, constantly talking smack.
They knew because with the Seahawks in that situation where they're all mad at each other, it's a thing in football because you can't be mad or have the emotions right too high. It's a bend don't break thing. Yeah, because you can show emotions, but the Bills knew what they're doing.
Exactly.
They'll take a $5 penalty.
Keep poking.
Like a 5-yard penalty to you suck, Gino.
Yeah.
Oh, shut up, get off, Gino. Pushes and that whole big thing starts. So what are you doing? And
well, it's you keep poking the bear. You realize that they're upset. If I'm the Bills sideline, if I'm a player, if I'm a coach, if I'm anyone, I'm looking. I'm seeing. Oh, they're fighting each other. Oh, Gino looks upset. So and so. I'm like, they're not mentally tough right now.
They're gonna break.
They're gonna break if we just poke them a little bit. And they just kept doing that. They were talking to us. Geno Smith throws the football at one of the Bills guys' helmets. Gets a misconduct or whatever it was. Pushes the ball back.
It's simple stuff too. Of just we're walking back in the huddle. Oh, if I'm a Bills guy, shoulder action.
Yeah.
And that's all you need to do. But going back to what Connor said, Gino really revived his career with the Seahawks.
Right.
From what it basically was, as he was I believe a first-round pick. Late first-round guy, I want to say.
Yep, and then started out with the Jets. Yeah, yep.
And then, obviously, first-round picker doesn't go to mind, but he's a journeyman, all that stuff. And I agree with you. He cares a lot about the sport.
Oh, for sure.
100%.
Yeah, sure.
And,
the effort's there.
And when it's all said and done, I know we dog on Gino and stuff right now, but when it's all said and done, Gino, we gave Seahawks a little hope and reason to believe to win these last 4 years as he's been on the team. And I just want to say, going back to, I don't know why we're throwing it as much as them. I believe it should be a very even, voice crack, but very even snap count with running it and passing it.
Totally.
We have Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet. We have very good running backs where we could just even split handoffs, but Kenneth Walker's having a great season. It should be almost 60-40. Unless we have to pass it almost kind of thing. But
and the whole showing the cracks thing, that's a great point because we can't have that right now, right?
Yeah.
As much as Gino, I get where he's coming from. This team can't have that right now. We don't have time. We don't have the ability to, let that emotion show through. And so from the guy that's probably one of the oldest on our team, that's not something you can show as much as you might deserve to be able to show that.
Yeah.
And I think, well, to end off the Seahawks segment, because we've been running for a good amount of time.
Yeah, no, totally.
This division's wide open.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure everybody is 4-4, and the Rams are 4-3 or something like that in the division.
3-4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Insane. Insane. So we have 3 division games in a row, like you said. This makes or breaks the season, basically.
100%.
If we somehow go 3-0, that's not a guaranteed playoff, but a damn very good chance. Let me tell you that, because if we beat division opponents, that obviously hurts them, helps us.
Yeah.
So I'm saying right now that the season's not over.
No.
There's just things we have to build off of. The
Absolutely.
division's open. It's not like we have to come back. All we have to do is win games. So.
Yeah. No. So we're going to be Seahawks, lost to the Bills. They're going to be playing against the Rams next Sunday. I think the kickoff.
This Sunday.
This Sunday, yes. This Sunday, 1:25 kickoff, I think, somewhere around
Yep,
that
and then a
time.
bye week after that.
I mean, definitely, like, in sports, we'll always say, like, flush a loss like that.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is one where it's like, you flush it, but you also got to remember,
Let it burn.
Let it burn a little bit. Get angry. Be pissed. Don't be overly emotional. There's a right amount of anger you can bring to it that helps you win. And if you're too angry, you get what you got last game.
No, 100%. And like with Gino, like with his emotions showing, if anything, you got from his point of view, he's got to look at it as a good thing.
Yes.
He's like, if I'm Mike McDaniel or whatever, I'm talking to Gino and I'm going, hey, that means you care.
Yeah.
You got to just harness it, dude. That means you care. That's good. Let it burn.
Yeah.
Let it burn. You just got to come out stronger. You can't let the emotions overdo you, but that means you care, man.
You gotta mix the anger with poise.
Yeah.
If you can mix the two of them together, that's where you get like the Tom Brady-esque quarterbacks.
Yeah,
who are
that's
just-
the perfect mix.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
the perfect mix.
Like you have receivers going, you're old, Tom.
Yeah.
Come up there, have a touchdown drive, baby. Like,
Exactly.
But we're going to Kraken now.
No, yeah. So that's it for the Seahawks. Let's move on.
Cool.
Let's talk about the Kraken. To be honest, so I wouldn't say the Kraken are having either a really good season or a really awful season right now. We're kind of we're going back and forth between really good games and really bad games. Tough loss against Carolina, 4-1. You got a commanding win against the Canadians, 8-2, and then of course last game Toronto wins that one, 4-1. Now look, Carolina and Toronto are playoff teams. They are strong contenders. So I understand where we kind of get you pick up a loss against those two teams and everything. Canadians aren't that good. 8-2 win. I love that. I love high scoring hockey games like that. They don't happen very often. So when we put up a couple this season. So we're finding something that's clicking offensively against kind of mid-level teams like the Predators, the Flyers, the Canadians.
Yeah.
But then it feels like when we play good teams, when we played the Stars, when we played Carolina, Toronto, I wouldn't say we get smacked around a little bit.
Offense is just
Yeah.
non-existence. And I think it comes into play of like this obviously is a young team.
Totally.
And the veterans on this team outside maybe like Montour or whatever aren't really the superstars.
Yeah.
And that's something Kraken need to find. And like we said, it's early on in the season. October could be the worst month of the year for some teams, and it also could be the best month of the season for the best teams.
100%.
October is one of the that's not really the month of hockey you want to look at looking back on the season. You can say like they started off hot and kept it going throughout the season, which is one thing, but I think a lot of teams that started off hot will fall off, or a bunch of teams that started off cold will end up getting hot and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's not a lot to look at right now. Like you said, high-scoring games and low-scoring games. It's a matter of finding consistent offense. If you can consistently score 3 to 4 goals every single game, win or lost, you found something.
Yeah.
So that's what the Kraken need to do. Like almost got shut out versus the Maple Leafs. Obviously a good team, stuff like that. And a bunch of playoff teams are coming up on us. But the playoff teams, I'm not going to lie, they are better than us.
Totally.
The Kraken aren't that team to be afraid of yet.
Yeah.
But it's just, we just got to keep going up. You can't, it's got to be like a little graph where you just keep going up slowly and slowly. We don't need to just go to the top immediately.
It's like we're not defying expectations. I think that's the biggest thing. Like the Kraken are just like so middle ground this season. It's like
totally.
they lose to the playoff teams from last year, but they beat the non-playoff teams from last year.
Exactly.
And it's like, at what point are they going to take that step forward where it's like, okay, we're going to start beating some playoff teams every occasionally, right?
Yeah.
Like we'll pull a win against, a Panthers, a Hurricanes, a Maple Leafs, whatever, whatever
Totally.
great team it is, right? Lightning, whatever. But that hasn't happened yet. And so, I mean, the commanding wins with the offense is great. Scoring a lot of goals in those games is meaningful, and that's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
But the expectations are set at where, I mean, the expectations are the same as they were at the start of the season and at the end of last season, and I think that needs to change.
100%.
I think week in, week out, you can talk a little bit, but you can't look too much into the hockey season once you get that midway point and everything like that. But something I do want to talk about is goalies. I think Decord should be like the 70-30 kind of starter. Like he gets 70% of the reps. Like have him step into I'm the goalie one.
Yeah.
It's not a 50-50 split. I'm the goalie one. I think Decord is the better goalie.
Yeah.
And I also think he loves Seattle. Seattle loves him kind of thing.
Totally.
He hasn't had the rough game. Like Grubauer's had some rough starts to the year so far. So he's obviously down on himself. And one of the biggest things in a goalie is confidence. So
100%.
I think Decord needs to step into that I'm the main guy kind of role.
Yeah.
With Grubauer still being an amazing backup, probably an above average backup. Like Decord's like that average level starter that wins you games.
Yeah.
And Grubauer's an above average backup and everything like that. You just got to go from there. And with the Kraken, I don't know if you look at like trading one of them. It's like we talked about, look to trading one of them as we don't know how the offense is inconsistent, whatever. But something needs to change, and we just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Like, what I'll say is we have something that most NHL teams don't have. We have two solid goalies on our lineup. A lot of teams have, all-star caliber, absolutely phenomenal goalie in net, and they have just below average backup goalie who is like a call-up from the minors, and like, if this guy gets hurt, you can put him in net, and then but you're probably not going to win a lot of those games. Yeah, we have two guys. We have Grubauer and we have Decord. I mean, I love Grubauer. He's a great goalie, and I love Decord. He's a phenomenal goaltender. I think he's a young guy who's got a lot of potential to be a franchise goalie for us.
Yeah,
and so that's the thing though. Is like, so we have two really good goalies on our team. So if one of them gets hurt, we're able to put one in and still be able to win games and everything.
Yeah.
But I 100% agree with you. I've been saying it for a while. I think that Grubauer is talented enough that you could trade him and pick up a high-scoring forward, right?
Like a second line kind of
guy. Something like that. Because at the moment, you got Brandon Montour, who's scored, I think he's up there in terms of leading the team in goals as a defenseman.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously our forwards are not producing as much as they could. So you get somebody in there. You gotta make it so that there's some pressure on those guys where it's like, if I'm not performing, someone's going to take my spot. Because if you get too comfortable where it's like, oh, I know I'm on this line and I'm not going to get moved because there's no one to take my spot. If you get somebody who's good enough to take that guy's spot, it's going to do two things. One, you get a guy who can fill in that role, get goals, and you're motivating the guys who are already there to be like, oh, man, there's someone at my heels if I don't start producing. So...
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, the backline's been fine, the defensemen, the centers, they've been fine. But, like, there's still improvement to be made, especially in the wing areas, right? Absolutely. And I totally agree with you. I mean, I love McCann, and I love everybody else that's up front there, but yeah, there's still more work to be done for sure.
No, McCann's been he's having a great season. He's having consistently great seasons with us. He's a dog. I love him.
Which is great. We need that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think he scored I want to say it was his 100th goal with the Kraken the other day.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's consistent. He's really, really good. He's just like that kind of wrist shot snipe over he's really good with that. He's one of those guys where, someone will ask me, it's like, Dad, did you know who Jared McCann was? And I'll like be like, oh yeah, I know who Jared McCann was.
Well, and Jared McCann's obviously having a great season, but watching these Kraken game, it seems to be like that one. They have always a one period that they're just off. Yeah. Where the other team is just dominating possession time, getting more shots, and that loses the games. I don't know if it's because they mess up on an adjustment with the coaching staff or something like that, but they just seem to just be like. They're just getting ran in this first period, second period, third period, whatever period it is. They just seem to have that one off period where other teams dominate possession time. We barely get any shots. We keep getting penalties. The other team keeps having power plays, and it's just almost like get it out, please get a goal. Exactly. And you're just watching. It's like, what happened? And then the third period, they come out swinging and get 2 goals within 5 minutes. It's like, what?
What's going on?
So
Short bursts.
Yeah.
And that's what's causing a lot of close contests. I mean, they've been to overtime, 3 or 4 times already this season? And then a bunch of 1-goal games. And it's like, if you're winning those games, it's great, but they're not winning all those games.
It's not sustainable wins.
Exactly. Yeah, like you can't be, I mean, as much as an overtime loss is fine, right? Like, we can't be racking those up all season. And so having those 1-period sessions like you were talking about where it's just like, the offense is at a standstill and the other team's controlling the ice, controlling the puck, whatever, that causes a momentum shift, and that really forces the team to be on its back heels and like really work way harder than they need to in the second and third period, whatever period it is. Yeah.
And something I want the Kraken to work on, because obviously I think we all know we're not Stanley Cup contenders.
Yeah.
There's a chance. I'm not going to say we're not going to make the playoffs, because there always is a chance.
There's an outside shot every year, right?
What I want the Kraken to work on is obviously getting better offensively, but putting together complete games.
Yes.
Finding like, we're a team that will play no matter who the team is. We're going to give you our hardest 3 periods. If
Absolutely.
the Kraken can like get that identity of we're the hard, rough, tough team of putting together 3 periods year in, year out, that's going to build something. It's going to, show something. The program's only going to build up from there. And obviously we're getting noticed by relatively big free agents like Montour and some other guys. So if we getting complete games going, I think Kraken, we're going in the right direction is all I'm going to say.
And you mentioned earlier, you mentioned the coaching staff.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, and I haven't talked about her yet so far. Jessica Campbell, first female assistant coach in the NHL for us.
Applause to her.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a big achievement, and I mean, the reason why I didn't want to talk about it earlier was because I wanted to see how she panned out. I wanted to see exactly how.
Which is totally fair.
Yeah, I wanted to see how was she going to be able to fit in? Was it going to be able to work? And she's been great. And that's partly because, one, we have a new head coach, Dan Bylsma, from the Coachella Firebirds. She worked with him down there as well. So you're bringing a coach and an assistant coach who have worked together. They won the championship down there with the Coachella Firebirds last year. So you're bringing a championship-level coaching staff up. Granted, it's minor league hockey. But, championship-level coaching staff up there who can gel together, can work together. And the one thing I wanted to say is that she's commanding respect from the players. And that's the thing, is it's a lot of those former Firebirds, that's Ty Cartier, Riker Evans, Shane Wright, they're playing phenomenally, and it's because they gel with Jessica, because they understand that they've played under her, they understand her coaching style, and they're getting that same coaching style on the national level. And before, where it was Dave Hackstall, and they were trying to go up and play in the NHL, you could tell they were struggling, that they didn't quite mesh with him. But you can tell that they mesh with her, and that clearly she's doing something, and she's the right person for that job, and she's helping get those younger guys who are minor league talent. She's pushing them into national league talent.
Well, like we said, like they're having that one-off period in the first or second period or whatever it is. The coaching staff's making the adjustments so we don't have that again. I don't know if it's all Jessica Campbell, obviously. There's probably
Dan Bylsma's in there too,
a whole bunch of probably 4 other coaches, all that stuff. But she's part of that unit that changes something. And so Jessica's, like we said, it's first year for a lot of things. Like whether it's the Seahawks or the Kraken, Seattle's having a great first year of a lot of things. Yeah. But it's just they're getting better from here. That's all you can do. And it's early on in the season. A lot of stuff can happen. Where like 3 months later we could be like fire Jessica Campbell. You truly never know. I'm not saying that will happen, but with the Kraken, just build off it.
Totally.
Just build off it. Learn from it. Learn from her.
Yeah.
And just keep on going.
Learn from it.
I love how from the player's perspective, like nothing about her gender or anything else matters, right?
Yeah,
it's all about what she's done in the past and then her ability to coach a team. And I think that's great. And then from the coaching relationship perspective with the head coach, right? Like you cannot understate how important it is to have a relationship or a working past. Like that is such an advantage for any team, right? And so for the Kraken to make that decision and get both of them in the locker room at the same time, I think speaks volumes. And I think hopefully later in the season we'll see it even more tangibly and start producing some results that'll really help the team.
Absolutely, yeah. And so I also want to talk about. Obviously, earlier in the season, Eberle was made the captain for the Kraken.
Great guy.
Yeah, great guy. From what I've heard, he's been the captain of this team long before he had the C on his jersey.
Yeah.
And I can see that. I think he's a veteran guy you bring in from the Islanders. He also played for the Oilers too. He's a veteran player who's been in the league for a while. Veteran talent, veteran mindset, he has that captain potential, and he's been being the captain. And then now it's official. He has the C. And I think ever since they gave him the C, he's been playing pretty well. He's had some pretty quiet years, like the past 2 years. He's been playing decent hockey, but he hasn't been standout. And he's been pretty standout so far. Him, Brandon Montour, and Chandler Stevenson are the 3 senior guys on the team now who I'm looking at. And finally, I think we've been lacking it the past couple of years, senior leadership. Older guys who are filling those roles and bringing everybody up to their level.
Voices in the locker room.
Exactly.
Which I think Jordan Eberle is perfect at that because he on the offense side, he's been through a lot. He's been with the winning teams like the Oilers, and I think they made the playoffs with the Islanders. I'm probably going to make a crazy run.
Yeah.
But Jordan Eberle has played with the best of the best, knows what it takes and stuff like that. Obviously, he hasn't really produced like the best of the best, but he's a sustainable guy where you can play on your second line, third line, whatever, and you love a Jordan Eberle on your team kind of guy. And him being the voice in the locker room, I think, is a huge statement. I love that he's the captain right now. And I love that he's producing because it only gets more respect for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like you need these veterans who have made it to multiple Stanley Cups or whatever, right? That's not the issue. The issue is just having anybody who literally has been in a locker room before and has consistent experience in handling a long season, right? The NHL season's not short. And so just teaching the work ethic to the younger guys and really instilling a locker room identity that's like, every day we're out on the ice, let's hit hard and let's play hard, right? That's all that matters. And so getting a couple of guys like Eberle that just have had that experience before, I think is going to do so much for this team. And I like taking that direction, and I think it's always good. Even if you're trying to trend younger on your team, especially with a newer team like the Kraken, it's a good idea to bring in one veteran for every 3 young guys you have, right? Just to balance it out. Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of some of the young guys, I want to talk about Matty Beniers.
Yeah.
Look, face of the franchise.
Supposed to be.
Okay?
Supposedly.
Yeah. I mean, he had a beautiful season 2022. Kind of fell off a little bit 2023. He just hasn't been producing that much. And then this season, quiet. Almost nothing.
Well, like we talked about it, it's almost like a goon situation.
Yeah.
We're like, after that amazing rookie year, we're like, this dude's going to be it. Like,
takes a big hit.
We talked about, like, takes a huge hit. And he's almost just been, like, kind of scared, afraid of contact, almost, like, shying away from it.
Yeah.
Which, like, you're, like, kind of like, when you hurt your ankle or whatever, for the next 3 weeks, you're going to be, like, babying your right ankle.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And that's how he's kind of been playing hockey, where he's not as aggressive as much. And you have to be aggressive in hockey.
Yeah.
Like, the guys like Connor McDavid and stuff, they know they're going to get hit. It's a matter of you got hit him back, you know, and stuff like that, and that's what he's got to learn.
Yeah, and it's definitely because he took that really big hit. I can't remember who it was on the Golden Knights who hit him. It was a dirty hit too. I remember watching it and being like, he didn't even have the puck. He was coming through center ice in the offensive zone, and they laid him out. I think he had a concussion or something like that. He was out for a couple games. Missed out on he was going to be a All-Star. Missed out on playing in the All-Star game. And it feels like then ever since then, like what you're saying, you're a little scared of getting hit and contact, and to be honest, it wasn't just that hit too. Ever since he came into the league, I wouldn't say he's been targeted, but as a young guy, he's one of those top.
You're playing him kind of wilder.
Yeah,
like you think you can come in and dominate. And
and these guys are hitting you, and there's like welcome to the league, man. This is what it's like, and they're not going to treat you.
They're not
nicely.
going to you're not going to do this dumb stuff on like try and go tune the legs and all that. Boom, no. And, like they don't care.
Yeah, because he's not quite like Connor Bedard. Like you won't lay hits like that on Connor Bedard because he's the future of the NHL.
Sure.
If you even touch him, kind of like how Matty Beniers has been touched.
Yeah.
There's gonna be guys coming off the bench. Like obviously Matty Beniers is that guy, but if Connor Bedard gets crushed and he had a concussion last year, pretty sure a fight started because of that.
Yeah.
So, and like Matty Beniers, we probably need to protect him a little bit more.
Totally.
But he's also losing that kind of credibility, respect of like why should we protect you? You're not really doing much for the team, and he just needs to find a way to get at least back up to the rookie season standard.
Yeah, get the confidence back.
It's like he's holding back. Is second season, right?
Or
third year, yeah.
I'd say second and a half. He came in, I think, about like halfway through the 2022 season.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not necessarily like a sophomore slump, but if you want to kind of compare it to that, you can, right, from that perspective. And it's like, what you did in your rookie season was great, right? Yeah. So where did that go? And I feel like that hit. I mean, not that he's getting like PTSD from it, right?
Yeah,
but that's a telling moment, and you can attribute. I think you can attribute a lot of how he's playing this season to that moment, and he probably thinks about that a lot when he's on the ice, right? 100%. And so I think he's really holding back, and hopefully the veteran leadership they've gotten this season can really push him a little bit harder and push that through. Because if this team wants to ever break out in a game and really take over the ice, especially against a really good team like, any of the reigning Stanley Cup champions from the past couple of years, you're going to need a younger guy to show off that potential and really push through, on the offensive or defensive end.
Well, Connor, you said it perfectly. Like, even though he's on the ice, he's still, back to 100% healthy and all this stuff. It's always in the back of his mind when he's skating.
Totally.
Always in the back of his mind. And that is something that no athlete can have, whether it's basketball, you jump up, tear your ACL, you come back, all that stuff. I think we're going to shift a little. Klay Thompson, first game back, that whole big hype, comes in and dunks it. He's not a dunker whatsoever, all that stuff. But
he's not thinking.
He's not worried about it whatsoever. You have to know you are 100% healthy. You have to know I can take this hit.
Right.
And he doesn't have that right now where it's in the back of his mind because hockey's fast-paced. It's moving really fast.
Yeah.
And it's just, you see this guy coming on the corner of your eye? That's
you flinch a little
boom,
bit,
instantly. Like a little flash, and that loses
all your confidence.
Confidence, or even just a little vision of keeping control of the puck, loses the puck, and then that's something, you said it perfectly.
Yep.
It's always going to be back there, and he needs to find a way to get rid of that.
And the thing that the Kraken can do to help with that is you get guys like Jamie Alexiak, some of your bigger boys, some of your brawlers to kind of get in there and back up Matty Beniers.
Yeah.
He gets hit. He gets, pressured a little bit by some of these guys who are trying to dog on him a little bit.
Cross-check right back.
Yeah, exactly. Be aggressive. Drop
Also,
the gloves a little
maybe
bit.
just hit Beniers in practice.
Honestly.
I mean, gosh, get it into him. Like, you're gonna get hit. This is how it feels.
Uh-huh.
You're in the NHL.
Let's instill this. Yeah, let's instill this identity going forward, man.
Yeah, no, get your mind right. I think, honestly, he's good talent. You can tell that from his first season, he can play great hockey.
Yeah.
He can 100% can. He's a very, very talented kid out of University of Michigan, and I mean, just played phenomenal hockey there. He played phenomenal hockey his first season. He can be a great player if he just gets the mental side down. And I think, definitely like going into the NHL, you're getting hit. You just gotta put that aside. You gotta remind yourself that there's a reason why you're on an NHL team, and it's because you are NHL talent.
Yes.
And you gotta start playing like it, and just get your mind right, and just do that. So, the Kraken are gonna play tonight. They're playing against the Senators, another good team, another
Playoff stretch.
Exactly, yeah. So they gotta figure some stuff out. I think if they can beat playoff contending teams, they just kind of gotta clutch up a little bit, let their veterans guide those younger guys, and hopefully some of those younger guys, like Matty Beniers, for example, start producing a little bit more for us. So,
Yep, hopefully.
yeah, puck drops at 7:00. I'll be watching that. I love watching Kraken games. They're a lot of fun. So I'll be watching that. Let's get into our last segment of the day. Each of us has picked a star athlete of the week.
3 stars.
Exactly.
Little NHL after NHL
Exactly.
game
3
action,
stars. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Connor, let's start with you. What is your first star?
Well, I think we should explain it off real fast.
Oh, absolutely.
Go for it.
So what the 3 stars is we came up with is that when all 3 of us are on, we'll have our 3 stars, just like a hockey game, obviously.
Yep.
And we'll each have a star of the week. So from last Saturday to this Saturday. So it could be college football player, college football basketball player at this point, NFL. It could be tennis, baseball, any sport. Who is your star
Horse
of the
racing,
week?
whatever it is. Yeah.
And so, like we said, Connor, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna dip into the NBA, which that hasn't been done a lot on the show, but
No.
I can definitely speak to it.
Yes,
I'm gonna go with Anthony Davis.
Yes.
Since JJ Redick took over as coach, this team has been phenomenal. The offensive identity just looks way better,
Yes.
and everybody knows AD's great, and I think he's arguably top 10 player, probably 8-9 range, whatever you want to say. But the last few years, it's been like, we get it, right? You're the 26, 27, and 10 guy, right? And that's going to be consistent. You'll be top 5 DPOY. This year is different, especially the last 2 games. Phenomenal, right? You're dropping 32 a game. Last night was spectacular. I think it was like 35, 36 against the Raptors, matching exactly what RJ Barrett did. And his presence just looks great. I think he's shooting well from the field. He just knows where he's at, and I'm loving that he's really embracing just being of a normal 5 in the NBA, right?
Yeah.
Like for the longest time, it was like, oh, I'm a little iffy to play the 5. I want to play the 4. Let's have Jackson Hayes play next to me. In New Orleans, it was, DeMarcus Cousins, whoever. But this year and last year a little bit too, it's just been like, I'm the 5. I can shoot the 3 ball. I can play wherever I need to. And the pick and roll's been on point with LeBron this season, and he's just commanding a lot of attention from players, and he's just working through it. The touch has been on point. The defense is still there. And so I think from this first 6-game stretch in the past 2-3 games this last week, this team looks like a legitimate title contender, whereas I thought at the beginning of the season, like,
No way.
this is like a 6-7 seed team, first to second round exit at best.
Well, and like you said with the Lakers, I'm getting back when they did win the title. You had that excitement, that little flashes here and there, and I'm seeing not fully what the team was and stuff like that, but I'm seeing those little flashes of, I kind of like how this Lakers team is playing. They're thriving really good and all that stuff. And JJ Redick, I think, has been a great coach. And something like, since we're talking, Anthony Davis had a great start this season. Obviously, he has to stay healthy. That's been one of the biggest concerns in his whole entire career. But he also, I think he needs to be the best player on this team. LeBron is getting older. Not saying he's slowing down by any means necessary. He's one of the greatest, probably he's the greatest player of all time.
Yeah.
But Anthony Davis being that young guy who can do amazing things needs to be, I'm the best player on this team. Not like push LeBron to the side, but put up those stats. And so far he's done that. I think he's leading the league, obviously, at the beginning of the season, first couple weeks and stuff like that. He's the #1 MVP race right now. So keep it up, man.
He's taking over when it matters most, and I don't know if it's for some people it might be going out on a limb, but he's definitely the best. I mean, he's the best player on this team to me over LeBron easily.
Yeah,
not easily, but it's there's enough of a gap at this point, and what they've needed him to take over games, and it hasn't always happened. And so to actually have a guy who it's like, okay, when you're healthy, even in the regular season, you're dropping 30 a game, and you can drop 40 on any given night.
Yeah,
it's like, as much as our offense could struggle with 3 sometimes in games, we can just feed you and we're good, right?
Exactly.
And so I think the Lakers, it's been great for them to have that.
And that's awesome. Smith, you want to do yours or mine?
Let's go with yours first.
Okay, well, I think we have to say it. Just won a championship, the championship. Freddie Freeman.
Absolutely.
And we talked about him a lot.
Great pick.
Well, obviously, we legit talked about him a lot so far on this podcast, so we won't get too crazy in depth with it. But I think he has the record now. This is going back to when he won with the Braves. Yep. Last 2 games of that series had a home run and got a chip out of it. But then the first 4 games of this year, hits home runs, making it 6 consecutive home runs in a World Series. Is just insane to me.
Yeah,
he won Finals MVP for a reason. There's a couple games. Well, I don't want to say technically, but Game 1 technically won them the game with that walk off.
Yep.
And there's probably a couple other games going back to the Braves series where he single-handedly won. This team. So I feel like you have to give it to Freddie Freeman.
Totally.
One was the best player in a championship series when there is people like Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Stanton, Soto. It's not like he's the only superstar, carry this team, I'm LeBron.
Yeah.
And you have to give it to Freddie Freeman.
Exactly.
No, Freddie Freeman proved himself that he was the best player on the stage this past week. So.
Well, someone needed to say it. I mean, right?
Exactly.
You could have gone off on a limb and chosen some really interesting pick, but
100%.
Someone needed to say Freeman, so commending to you to putting his name in there, right?
Exactly.
He absolutely deserves it.
So we obviously talked about a lot about him. We're not getting too crazy in stats. He won MVP, top stage, and everything like that. And we talked about him a lot. So move on to yours, Smith.
Yeah. So my star, I'm gonna go with. Going back to the Kraken, I gotta go Brandon Montour, just because he picked up a Hattie in that Canadiens game in that 8-2 win we had.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. I think he's been good all year, but he was especially really good in that game, picking up 3 goals. I mean, hat tricks don't happen that often in the NHL, and for a defenseman to be doing that,
exactly.
That's what we talked about it too. He's a defenseman who's high scoring. He's from the blue line, slap shot. He's got power. He just through the screen, just dots it in the top corner, dots it past the glove, dots it past the blocker.
100%.
He's got that talent, and that, again, like we said, he's a veteran leader too. The one thing I like about him too with the Kraken is that he wants to play here. Same thing with Joey Decord, where he loves Seattle. Brandon Montour also really loves Seattle. He loves our fans. Yeah, exactly. You have a guy in the past, mainly with the Mariners, it's been a thing where a guy comes to the Mariners and his career is over. He's got 2 seasons left in him, and that's it. And it's like, oh, I'm getting traded to the Mariners. Ugh, I'm not gonna that's like the Justin Turner and Randy Rosarena situation.
Yeah,
where it's like I would look at them like they're older guys, and to them it's like, oh, I got traded to the Mariners. I'm not playing too many more years. And so it's good, especially it helps that the Kraken's a younger team. But you got an older guy who's getting traded to the Seattle Kraken and doesn't look at it from the standpoint of, oh, my career's over, or these guys are beneath me, or whatever like that. He's like, I like this town. I love this. You're coming off a Stanley Cup win, and you're happy to be in a different town or something like that, to be in Seattle and play with these boys. I love that.
And we talked about Montour a lot on the last one.
Yep.
Love Brandon Montour here in Seattle and everything like that. But he also knows what needs to happen.
Yes.
And so he's making it happen. Obviously, a high-scoring defenseman, pretty close to leading the team in goals.
Yep.
For the Kraken, which is very impressive. Also, just had a kid born, had to miss last game.
Yeah.
So snaps for that.
Exactly
snaps for that.
Yes, sir.
Brandon Montour, he's been a gift to the program so far.
Yeah.
Like you just said, when you go to Seattle, your career's over. Blah blah. The Kraken aren't building that identity, which is awesome off the bat. Love to see that. And Montour's only helped the city.
Totally.
So. Just had a kid coming off a Hattie.
Yeah.
He's had a great month, great week of
lots of them go for him.
Exactly, stuff like that. But I think we had a pretty good 3 stars. All of them had dominant performances.
For sure.
Past couple weeks. So
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of good picks. I love it. Yeah. So that's going to do it for our episode today. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, there's a Kraken game later tonight. Hopefully, you guys can tune in and watch that. There's going to be some pretty good hockey there. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful day on the Palouse today. I'm Smith Sly.
I'm Connor Seuferling.
I'm Connor Simmons.
Thank you guys so much for being in booth with me today. It was a pleasure talking to you guys.
Of course, anytime.
Yep.
So yeah, that'll do it for our show, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Remember, it is a great day to have a great day, and go Cougs.